Okay, so I just wanted to do a quick intro video, maybe 5 or 10 minutes here, on sort of what the ECD Dimmer team does in terms of our day-to-day process, and also sort of the context or point of view that we bring to how we operate. So a few drawings to kind of help facilitate that. So I threw up for reference the PDLC process, which hopefully everybody's relatively familiar with. So we have the envision stage, initiate, design, develop, deploy, ops, a set of to-dos and docs and things like that underneath. Obviously, in most software development, that's the natural flow. I mean, we do the exact same thing. It's just a slightly different context about what we're trying to accomplish through, the envision stage to the deploy and ops stage. And we kind of make the analogy, if you consider a manufacturing background, and you hear, terms about Six Sigma or lean manufacturing, where you have kind of your assembly line of something that's well defined on this end, pushed through from each stage until it's deployed and shipped to the end user. At each point in these, stage 1 to stage 2, stage 3, there's a lot of processes that we're all familiar with and we've heard, like lean manufacturing, Six Sigma, and those are tools to optimize, to eliminate waste. The whatever it is, 5 nines or 6 nines that is Six Sigma, which is optimizing quality end to end through the process. And we love that approach and sort of try to model that approach and adapt it to software development. And I think it works pretty well. And the most interesting or slight deviation of that is that, if I'm manufacturing a car from end to end, which is relatively defined, being optimized through the process, it's slightly different than software in the sense that our approach to our process, which as you can see, mimics the PDLC pretty well because it's basic concepts of flows to execution. We sort of just inject feedback from end users, and that end user can be anyone, right? If it's a web-facing app, it's our customers, the end consumer. If this project or effort is a internal architecture system or platform, the end user could be other engineers. So as an engineer, I'm going to be using this platform or set of APIs for something. So the end user can be defined in any way. And sort of within these cycles, we just have tools and mechanisms to help us collaborate within each cycle as we go from left to right across this process. And the PDLC does as well. I think something that's interesting to call out for us, trying to kind of address a question that I've heard about our process is documentation, right? So for us, the way that we operate, we believe that at each one of these stages, documentation is an artifact, it's an outcome. So, we'll create this vertical slice of this product, which is enough of it that we can kind of rein in. We're not building out the entire system end to end, but enough that we can build it and get feedback to adjust and make sure we're on the right track. Another similar analogy that I've heard used is sailing. So if I know that I need to sail from point A to point B, rather than trying to, create a series of directions or documents up front that I just follow from end to end and may deviate and end up this far askew, I'll have little checkpoints along the way, realizing that, this UI interaction might be slightly off, or this internal API or system might not be actually addressing the end engineer's needs, or if in a web-facing app, our end consumer's needs, and sort of bringing those things back in so that I get from point A to point B in what tends to be a much more efficient and effective fashion. One of the other things that I just wanted to call out in terms of collaboration again, so the documentation is an artifact, so at this point we would have, we're creating documents for historical purposes to go back and knowledge share so that anyone else can see how we got from point A to point B and where we're eventually going, rather than using documentation across the execution phase as a way to kind of communicate with each other internally as we're executing within the cycles. So that goes to collaboration and eliminating waste and efficiencies. So a lot of that communication happens just by having the cross-functional team. So someone from QA, someone from UI, UX, someone from engineering, and physically, ideally, hopefully sitting close together so the teams can kind of self-organize and communicate in real time. Because I think if we rely so much on email and other things for communication, it's much easier to kind of dismiss an email when I come in just like most everybody else and have 20, 30, some people here have 50, 100 emails in their queue. It's slightly easier to dismiss an email than when you're working tightly with a group that you're accountable for and accountable to. And Luke needs something from me or Nathan needs something from me, and so we'll sit next to each other and just collaborate in real time. And then once we've built something that we're getting feedback on, we'll document it along the way. But before delivering to this deploy and ops phase, we'll make sure the documentation is polished and there and available for anybody else who might want to leverage or use that artifact. So this is just kind of, again, the high-level intro. I think the biggest things to think about is that you hear the terms Agile and Scrum and PDLC and PMO. I think really the ECD Denver shop, this approach isn't that much different. It's almost, I view it as like a PMO 2.0, or for kind of the smaller, less than 250-hour projects in the PMO, just a different take on how to approach that. But not radically different, just slightly different. It's a lot of the same processes as you see. They're all modeled off of a lot of the same things. It's just kind of within each smaller little iteration, how do you collaborate and communicate, and what's the artifacts at the end of each one, and how do you kind of self-correct your course as you're going from the beginning to the end. And then the key points that flow through that you start to think about, like, okay, what's the next step of how I might be able to start to do something like that, is, again, the collaboration and communication aspect, your planning and your planning cycles as you work through phases left to right, and how you can kind of plan in smaller iterations, or the deliverable that you want a user to give you feedback on, we call vertical slices and different things like that. The rhythms of your work as the team or collaborative team that's executing, you kind of know that there's a checkpoint along the way, something that we're going to get feedback on, kind of celebrate our successes and cool work that we did along the way, but also get feedback of, oh, well, this was cool, but slightly askew. How do we self-correct that? So those rhythms are nice for the team and the execution. And again, just the concept of the vertical slices, which has impact on planning and as well the user feedback.